They told us there was only one rule. Not a list, not a handbook, not something carved into a wall or posted near the entrance. Just one rule. And somehow, that made it so much worse, because when rules are few, they carry weight. They don't need justification. They don't need an explanation. They exist because something already happened. The rule was passed down quietly. When a new person moved into the building, they were told the same way, every single time. Calmly, casually, almost like it was just a courtesy. Every night at 2:17 a.m., they'd say, "Don't look outside." That was it. No warning, no threat. Sometimes, after an awkward, hanging silence, they'd add one more line. And if you ever do, don't react. No one ever explained what that meant. React. How? Scream, run, blink. The lack of detail was deeply unsettling, but not enough to start a rebellion. Rules that don't disrupt your daily life rarely feel dangerous. 2:17 a.m. is an easy time to obey a rule. Most people are asleep. Lights are off. Curtains are drawn. Tyrrell didn't tea. Ask for effort. It didn't ask for any sacrifice, and that's how it survived. Fear doesn't need force when convenience does all the work for it. Some people laughed about it during the day, called it an old wives' tale. A superstition, a leftover from a time when people explained fear with rituals instead of with logic, but no one ever tested it. Not because they actually believed in it, because deep down, no one really wanted to find out what would happen if it was real. It took months before anyone noticed the pattern, not because it was subtle, because no one was looking. Every single night at 2:17, the building went quiet. Not a peaceful quiet, not a sleepy quiet. A heavy quiet, the kind of oppressive silence that presses against your ears. Cars outside stopped passing. The neighborhood dogs never barked. Even the usual hum of the building's electricity felt muted, almost completely gone. Phones would lose signal. Internet connections dropped. Digital clocks on nightstands froze, their glowing numbers stuck in time. For exactly 1 minute. Then, just as suddenly, everything returned. Every single time. No variation, no delay. It didn't feel random. It felt scheduled. But there's always one person who doesn't fit into these unspoken agreements. They weren't reckless. They weren't cruel. They were just curious. They were the one to ask the questions no one else dared to voice. What happens if someone breaks the rule? The room would always go quiet after that. People would look away, avoid eye contact, quickly change the subject. Not because they knew the answer, because just acknowledging the question made the rule feel real. And reality is always far more terrifying than superstition. They stayed awake that night. Not dramatically. Not defiantly. Just intentionally. They sat near the window, scrolling through their phone, pretending the whole thing was nonsense. 2:15 a.m. Nothing unusual. 2:16. They laughed to themselves, thinking about how fear only survives when people choose to obey. 2:17. Everything stopped. No sound. No vibration. No sense of time moving forward. The world outside the glass was perfectly still. They leaned closer to the window, and then they looked. They never described what they saw. Not properly. And that might be the most disturbing part of this entire story. They didn't scream. They didn't flinch. They didn't even blink. They just froze, eyes locked forward, staring into the darkness. Their breathing became shallow. Someone who was in the room with them whispered from behind, "Don't react." Their lips moved, just barely. A sound so quiet it was almost lost in the suffocating silence. "It knows I can see it." No one asked what it was, because the tone of their voice made it perfectly clear. The question didn't matter. When the minute ended at 2:18, sound returned all at once. Phones buzzed back to life. Lights flickered, the world resumed. But the atmosphere didn't. Something had changed, not outside, inside the building. Inside them. They started behaving differently. Sleeping less, staring at things for longer. They began to avoid mirrors. They said the reflection felt delayed, as if the image took a moment to catch up with their actual movements. They started whispering rules under their breath. New rules. Rules no one else remembered ever learning. Then, one night, they were gone. No signs of a struggle. No forced entry. Just an empty room. The curtains were pulled back. The window was wide open, facing outward, as if something had been waiting for them to finish looking. No announcement was made. No meeting was held. But everyone in the building understood. The rule had changed. Now, no one was allowed near the windows. Not at night. Not during the day. Not ever. Because once something is seen, it learns how to exist. And once it knows it's been noticed, there are no second chances. Rules aren't always meant to control people. Sometimes they're meant to protect reality itself. And the most unsettling thought of all, you are probably following rules right now that you don't even remember agreeing to. Rules you've never questioned. Rules that only exist because someone, somewhere, once broke them and paid for it. Thanks for watching.